Welcome back to part 2 of our etiquette series with our special guest, Jamie Helms. I'm going to go ahead and keep this quick because you already know what's going on, so sit back, relax, and learn a little more about show etiquette.
But yeah, like comics, you gotta watch the shows that you're on, man. Like, if
and
you're,
don't be in the back talking and cutting up
No.
and telling jokes to each other. You're again heckling and distracting from the show.
Yes, I've been in more than one room where
I mean that happens at Reboot.
I know man. I've had to tell people to shut the fuck up, or they have to get out before, like, close friends of mine, and it. I mean, people have a couple drinks, or they get excited, or they, whatever, they're catching up with somebody, and that's fine. Just have the wherewithal to do it in a non-disruptive way.
Or dip out to the back, go outside, smoke a cigarette, or whatever.
Yeah, and I'm not sitting here claiming that I watch every single act on every single show. Like, no, I have to step out and take a call, or I got to go to the bathroom, or especially if it's at Reboot. I'm usually at work, so I have other responsibilities. But every chance that I get to watch somebody, I will. Because another thing that I learned doing music is compliments are great, but generic compliments mean nothing. If you're going to compliment somebody, you have to be specific. Like if I'm looking for things that I can, add to people's day where I'm like, hey man, that bit crushed, blah, 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 like the more specific you can be, the better.
Well, I like adding on. I'm like, I loved your joke. Here's this if you want it, just to pepper in there. Because if you joke, joke.
There's a guy who's been coming to Reboot the last few months, and he's got this joke about crackheads that I will not do. That's another thing. Don't do your friends' jokes. Like, let them tell it. But he's got this joke about crackheads, and I've seen him do it 3 times, and the first 2 times he used one adjective, and the third time he used another adjective, and the third time it didn't land. And I just picked up, I was like, oh, what makes this joke great is this specific word that he used. And he used a synonym, and it flopped. And so I told him, I was like, hey man, I've seen you do that bit several times. It's made me laugh 2 out of 3 times. Like the third time, it's because you changed this word. And he was like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that. Like, that is a very specific word that I was using,
Yeah, and giving advice, criticism, whatever, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
If people don't want to hear it, shut up.
I mean, last year there was a show where somebody got a little too high before they went up, and they'd never gone up high before, and they ate shit, bro. This is a very funny person. I know this person's very capable of getting laughs, very proficient comic. And afterwards, they were like having a breakdown in the alley behind the venue, and they were like, I just don't understand what went wrong. I was like, man, you were fucking stoned. Like, you were geeked out of your mind. Like, that. Some people can, work out on stage high. Like, some people can do that.
Sterling Moody.
Yeah. But for this person, I was like, you just can't do that. It just doesn't mesh. And he's like, fuck, you're probably right. So yeah, like, constructive criticism is awesome. It's extremely valuable. It's often more valuable than plant laughs, but you can only give it if you watch the fucking show,
Yeah, and advice can come from anywhere, but I'm not giving advice to Doug Stanhope. Like,
right.
If it's somebody's headliner moment, send it to them in a message later. Let them have their moment, because there is no better high than crushing a room. But make sure you pace yourself. Don't get shitty before the show. Don't get high before the show. Wait till after.
Right. Yeah, I mean, especially those cats who, like, are trying to do this as a job. Like, you get, this is a common thing in the musician world. People want to live the rock star lifestyle and get super fucked up all the time.
You do that at the hotel.
Right. Turns out being drunk makes you sound like shit. Like, it inhibits your ability to perform in a number of ways. And, but that's not a terrible, at least with the comics that I worked with, it's not usually a bad thing. Like, once you start getting to bigger shows, everybody wants to do schmocaine. Like, it's rampant, and there's just too much fentanyl in the world. Like, don't do that shit.
Well, I was at an open mic at Smith's, and somebody offered me white ketamine, and I'm like, I appreciate you thinking I'm cool. I am pushing 40.
Oh
I don't even know
God.
what drug that is. Apparently it's a horse tranquilizer.
Yeah.
I know I'm huge, but like, I gotta drive home.
That shit puts mules to sleep. But there are people who will, like, take that and then work. Like, any video you see of somebody passed out behind the counter of a gas station, it's K. They're on K.
Like, I know when I used to play in bands and stuff, and we'd be on the road all the time. And I know part of my stage fright that I dealt with, I drank. Mm-hmm. That was part of it. And one of the drawbacks is, you are inebriated. You can fall down and get hurt. Or you can do what I did and wreck your body to the point where it rejects everything you put in it. And that's part of the reason why I don't drink anymore, actually. Partly because of medication and partly because I literally rip myself apart doing all that.
Well, good for you for, living sober. Like, that's, as an addict myself, it's extremely hard to get clean of a lot of stuff. The only vice I have left is booze. And I'm still cutting way, way back on that. But it's a hard thing, man. Like, the addiction is for sure a disease. And unfortunately, entertainers are super prone to it. Because that stage fright is real. Like, that's a powerful, like, the feeling of killing on stage is the best drug in the world. But the stage fright before and honestly after that you feel, like, you still, at least I do, I still feel stage fright after a show. Like, that anxiety is still present. But one of my favorite pieces of advice that I ever got was from my drama teacher, my first director. This is like, if there's a educator funeral that I will be going to in hopefully 40 years, I hope this person continues to live a long, healthy, happy life. We called her G, and I was super nervous before a show, like vomiting backstage, like a wreck, sweating, and once she walked up to me and she grounded me. She just grabbed my hand and she was like, "Hey, I'm just bringing you back to earth real quick," which she's also had to do because I got way too into character because I'm autistic. But she grabbed my hand and she was like, "Hey, you know that feeling that you feel right now?" And I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Isn't that kind of similar to the first time you kissed somebody?" And I was like, "Yeah, actually, yeah, like that level of nervousness, that was pretty similar." And she was like, "What did you do then? Did you run away? Did you try and get somebody to take your place? Did you try and, get out of it? Or did you lean into it?" And I don't know what it was about that made it so, that was such a profound thing for me, but just the idea of leaning into your stage fright. Yeah. It just completely recontextualized fear and anxiety for me, because you have fear chemicals in your body for a reason. We need those when, used to be a lion would be chasing us, and your fear got you up a tree or away from a lion, or you were able to punch it in the nose like a shark or whatever. I'm pretty sure that's what you do. But now, when you're faced with adversity, you can still draw on that fear and lean into it and let it fuel a performance, which is a really, really high concept that I don't really have a grasp on. I just know that when I feel afraid, it now becomes excitement. It's now anticipation.
Yeah, I think we went over that on the last episode of Stage Fright. You get all these things. That's your body letting the all right, let's go to work juices go.
Right.
And once you start identifying them as, all right, it's time to go put on the joke shoes, as opposed to, oh, I'm anxious, I'm nervous, I'm stage fright, whatever. Mm-hmm. I'm just all right, here we go. I'm going to pee 15 times before I get on stage.
Right.
But we're going to do this.
And it's also, stage fright in general is hilarious because it's very rare that you get booed. It's every comic's worst nightmare.
You gotta earn that shit.
I know. Right. And there's a reason, at Tucker's Roast, my closing bit was to get everybody to boo him because it's his worst fear. And I was like, boo this man, he's the leader of the Third Reich. And everybody did it. And then I was like, and now cheer for this guy like he just cured cancer. And then my closing bit was to say, I had to give that to you because you'll never earn it yourself. Because it was a roast. But, those massive, powerful feelings. I watched his face, and when he got booed, he had a physical reaction to it because your body can't help it.
Yeah.
And then when he got cheered on, he again had a physical. I could see his brain releasing dopamine and serotonin. And so, when you're afraid, good. That means that there's something that needs your attention. But it's very, very rare that you're actually going to get booed.
Well, I think it was Chris Titus who said it in, I think his Valentine's special, which is one of my favorites. He's like, anxiety gets shit done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. Because, I mean, it's like, one of your fear chemicals is adrenaline. That's energy. Like, so you need something to do with it. So, I don't know. I've seen cats who, like, do jumping jacks backstage. I've seen people who constantly run over their jokes or, have to go for a walk or whatever. I mean, whatever you have to do, like, your brain's part of your body. So your brain is telling you, hey, we need to move. So, like, move around. That helps a lot.
Unless you're on stage. If you are on stage, slow down. You tell a joke, stand there and smile. Because myself or the photographer or the host or somebody is going to be trying to take a picture of you. And if you are pacing, because I was so bad at this, because you don't stand still overseas. You get shot.
Right. Right.
And somebody, it was one of my photographers, was like, stand still. You're blurrier than Bigfoot in every shot.
That's funny. So one of the ways that you cross the 18-inch gap, in a ministry setting is you are moving. Like if you go and take, religious themed speaking classes, they advise you to get out from behind the pulpit, because that pulpit where your notes are, like, one, you don't want to be reading from a script. That's another thing. Comics, memorize your bits. Yeah. Like, I'm cool with an open micer reading off their phone or off their hand or something like that. But if you're not a career open micer, like if you're not new, if you've been doing this, or if I've seen you do this bit 3 times, there's no reason you should have to read it.
Yeah. Okay, so I actually got something on this, and it would fall under the etiquette for that. So, with me reading off my phone, I do memorize all my jokes, like the individual jokes, and I name each one of my jokes. Like, I've got the seafood splatter. I've got
Decepticock.
Yeah, the Decepticock joke.
That's one of my favorite bits.
I've got Yes, Daddy, I mean Drill Sergeant.
Also hilarious.
And I name these, but I know these jokes backwards and forwards. But what's something I take from my band days and playing the music is I make a set list.
Yes.
And instead of just reading the whole joke, I've just got the titles in the order that I want to say them. So all I got to do is just being like, oh, I'm doing this one first. And then I click a button and it's checked off, and just like that. And so I'm not...
Yeah, see, that's great.
Reading from my phone, but I've got the set
you're just looking down for a prompt. Because that also frees you up to look at the audience and engage with them. And I'm talking about the cats who are reading like they're doing a 5th grade presentation.
Yeah, and I've seen that too, and I think, like, I know, and I've read into this because, like, I've seen other comics do the set list thing too, and I think when they see other comics do that, they think, like, the comic's reading the whole joke.
Sure.
That they
Some
wrote
of them
down.
do, but you know how I do it. I do a drink, I do my phone, and I hide a note card behind it. And then I just hide the note card behind the drink with all of my little notes on it.
I mean,
and the phone's running the timer.
There's not necessarily anything wrong with having a phone and looking at it, because if I see somebody look down at their phone, like you do, like you're very good about glancing down and then rolling. Like, I'm assuming that you're checking your time, which I take as a great conscientious effort, because, like, comics going over time is terrible. Going under time is not great either.
Going under time is a lot more forgivable.
Sure.
And I am probably the least stringent person about time.
You're pretty forgiving.
Especially to an extent.
Well, if somebody's on a roll, if they're killing,
if
you'll let them go a little bit.
I will, but if you're trying to grow, if you're trying to get ready and move to the next level, hard timelines.
Well, yeah, and one of the best parts about a joke is when it ends. Because that's when the laughter starts. Or like it just bookends that presentation of that bit or whatever. And I don't consider myself like a joke comic. I tell stories from wacky experiences.
Yeah, yours is a lot of build with just a crescendo.
Right.
Maybe that's the right word.
Yeah.
Of a joke.
That's about right. There are a lot of moments, and I've noticed this, and I've wondered whether or not I should try and change this style, but there are a lot of, like, my most successful bits where the audience is just listening to me ramble for a hot second. There will be a minute and a half, 2 minutes, sometimes 3 minutes that goes by, and there's not a single laugh. But then, when I get to the point, it's hilarious. Like, well, I think it's hilarious. But that's also like I don't say anything I don't think is funny. Like I think I have a great sense of humor, and I make myself laugh